Welcome. I'm happy to share with you how you can simply and easily do a back, shoulder, neck, and head massage at home with no special equipment. Melanie offered to allow me to demonstrate on her today. So all you need is a regular household straight back chair and a pillow to put over that, and then a table for them to rest their arms on. This is a massage table, but it doesn't matter what the table is. It can be a regular kitchen table, anything that they can comfortably rest their arms on. Can you just show how you can lean forward? And then is that comfortable, Mel?
Very.
So you want to make sure that they have enough padding. You can add another pillow or a little bit of a blanket. It's going to be important for them to be comfortable, so you can make any adjustments that you need to. Thank you, Mel. And this is only for people who are healthy. This is not for working on injuries. Of course, most of us have tight spots in the muscles. That's fine. That's why we're doing this. We're working on the tight spots. But please don't work on anybody that has any injuries, any full body illnesses. Certainly no one with any spinal or shoulder injuries. So we're only working, this is only for working on somebody who's healthy. Just we're working on some tight spots in the muscles. I'm ready if you are, Melanie. You ready?
All right.
Okay. So we are going to start just with a gentle resting position, just placing our hands on the person for a few seconds before we begin. That gives their nervous system a chance to relax and just to get used to our touch. If we start digging in right away, their body's going to tense up instead of relax. And very simply and gently, I'm going to do an alternating squeeze moving down the back. So I'm using my palms and my fingers, kind of medium pressure, squeezing one side and then the other side. If I squeeze both sides at the same time, they're going to tense up more. If I squeeze one side and then the other, it lets one side relax when I'm squeezing the other side. And I'm actually going to get down on one knee for this, because it makes it more comfortable for me. I'm going to go all the way down to the top of their glutes. I can push into the glutes a little bit with the heel of my hand, and then come back up with the squeeze. So this isn't working out any knots, but it's gently warming up and relaxing the tissue. So the pressure can be firm. It's not as hard as you can, but it's not light either. It's a good firm squeeze. I'm going to do that several times up and down the back. See, and if I'm kneeling, then my back and shoulders are relaxed. If I'm standing up, by the time I get to her lower back, I would be bending over, which is not good for my back. So the kneeling position works very well for this. So we're just doing the same thing a few times, going up and down the back, squeezing one hand and then the other. Squeezing one side and then the other. Okay, I'm going to do something a little deeper now. I'm going to do a twist with my fists, pushing in and doing a little bit of a twist out away from the spine. The muscles tend to be tight when they're holding on around the spine. So we want to gently encourage them to relax away from the spine a little bit. So I'm pushing in with a little bit of a twist, and again, I can start on the top of the glutes. That feels really good. And for all of these strokes, we're not pushing right on the back. We're on the sides of the spine, not right on it. You can find the spine with your fingers. It's okay to touch it, but we're not going to push on it, to make sure that you are not pushing right on the spine, but on the muscles on either side. So I'm pushing in one side with a little twist and then the other. And for this, I'm going to stand and I'm going to have one leg behind me and one leg in front of me. So that front leg is supporting me. So again, I'm not leaning, which would not be good for my back. So one leg behind, one leg a little bit in front. My shoulders are relaxed. And I'm also breathing. Both people should be breathing, right? Pushing in with a little twist, and the person who's being worked on, if anything is too deep or uncomfortable at any point, they need to make sure to speak up and let us know. And as a general rule, when we go deeper, we want to go a little slower. So I don't think they're going to complain if I do the same thing 3 or 4 times, and as you do this, you can go progressively a little deeper within their tolerance. Is that okay so far, Melanie?
Feels great.
Wonderful. All right, you can do a little gentle brushing down in between strokes as well, just a little brushing, a little relaxing, soothing moves after digging in a little bit. Next, we're going to look at tapotement. So this is a beating movement with the fist, or you can also use a cupped hand or even a flat hand. So part of this depends on the size of the tissue. If you have a very bony person with not much tissue over their bones, a fist might feel too hard. But for most people, a fist will feel good on the muscle tissue. Now here's the secret to tapotement. I think for this I'm going to kneel again. So if our fist is stiff and rigid, it feels like we're hitting them. We don't want that. So the trick to tapotement is to keep your wrist relaxed, because then it has a bouncing quality. So you can start out slowly to get the feel of it and make sure that your wrist stays relaxed so that it has a bouncing quality. So one side and then the other. If we do both at the same time, it's a little jarring to the body. Just like we did with the other strokes, if we do one hand and then the other, it's easy for the body to stay relaxed. And make sure both of you are breathing, whether you're giving or receiving, and they'll let you know if this is too deep or too much pressure. But for most people, it feels good to have firm pressure as long as the wrist is relaxed, right? If it's not relaxed, it feels like hitting. We don't want that. Keep the wrist loose. You can keep your fist firm, but keep the wrist loose, and then it has a nice bouncing quality. You can also use a cupped hand. If the fist is too uncomfortable, or if their bones are close to the surface, if they say it doesn't feel comfortable, you can try the cupped hand. But for most people, the fist feels good. You can adjust as you need to. And I'm going to do a little smoothing out after that. And I'm going to do the twist with the fist once more now that they're even a little more relaxed after all of that. The tapotement helps the nerves to relax as well. It helps to get them to let go. So I might even be able to go a little deeper this time with the twist of the fist. Remember, as a rule, when you go deeper, you go a little slower. I'm pushing down on the top of the glutes here, making my way back up, and I do feel like I can go a little deeper this time, that her back muscles are relaxing a little more. Okay, Melanie, let's have you sit up. How you doing so far?
Oh, I feel great.
Good. So she's going to rest her hands here on the top of the chair so that she can stay relaxed. And I'm now going to work around the shoulder blade or scapula. Most of us have some tension in here, in these muscles between the spine and the shoulder blade. Again, we don't want to be pushing on any bones. We want to be working on soft tissue. So I'm going to push with my fingers. This is a more focused move than we've done so far. And I'm making little circles. I'm pushing into the tissue and making little circles and looking for any tight spots that might be hiding here. If you find a tight spot, you can just stay on it for a little bit. If the person's tensing up, maybe go a little slower with those little circles. So this is a great way to get to those some of those tight spots that hide around the scapula. And it's certainly okay to touch the border of the scapula, but we're not pushing right on the bone. We want to be in the soft tissue that's just off of the scapula. And again, my upper body is relaxed. I'm not leaning forward or hunching my shoulders. So check in with yourself while you're working to make sure that you don't have any unnecessary tension in your body. There's a little bit of a spot. And again, if anything's uncomfortable, it's the responsibility of the person who's being worked on to speak up. And when you're working on somebody, you also want to start to listen with your hands to feel what the tissue is doing. If it's relaxing, you might be able to push a little harder. Once it starts resisting, if you feel it pushing back, then don't keep pushing in or it'll tense up. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to find the scapula or shoulder blade, and I'm going to go just off of it and make little circles with my fingers pushing into the tissue. And if you find a tight spot, work with it gently, and hopefully you can feel it start to loosen up and open up under your fingers. And as it does that, you may be able to go a little deeper. But if we go too deep too quickly, it's going to be counterproductive. It'll be painful, and the tissue will just tighten up. So if you have the time, you could probably spend 5 or 10 minutes in these areas. So that all depends on what you feel like doing, what's going on with the person that you're working on. But this is a wonderful back routine that we can do even just in 15 minutes. But of course, you can make it last longer and just repeat some of the strokes again and again if you'd like. So that is really up to you. This can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even 30 minutes if you're feeling that ambitious. And again, I'm just going to do a little gentle stroking, which feels good after digging in a little bit. All right, let's do a little something for the top of the shoulders. So here's an easy way to work on the shoulders. We can start with pressing down with one hand and then the other. And again, we're not pushing right on the shoulders. We're not pushing into the neck. We're pushing on the soft tissue that's between the neck and the shoulder. Pushing one side and then the other. If I push down on both sides, again, that's not relaxing for the body. If I push one side and then the other, it's easier for the body to work with me. Now, another possibility here is to use your forearms. And I'm going to gently push in, allowing the weight of my body to push down on one side and then the other. Again, I'm making sure that I'm not pushing in towards the neck. You're pushing straight down. And these are the trapezius muscles, what we commonly call the shoulder muscles. Pushing down one side and then the other. And as the tissue relaxes, you may be able to apply a little more pressure. Just don't do anything too quickly, and then if anything's uncomfortable, the person you're working on can let you know. Okay, next we're going to do a little something for the neck. And I'm going to use my thumb and my fingers, and I'm going to pull back. So I'm pulling back on the muscle tissue that's around the neck. Again, we don't want to be pushing right onto the neck itself. We're working on the soft tissue around this. And I'm going to start with one hand on her forehead, and we're going to let her relax her head forward a little bit so that her neck muscles are relaxed, so you're holding the weight of their head a little bit. And I'm going to start up here actually on the base of the skull where a lot of the neck muscles attach. And I'm going to just do a gentle squeeze pulling back. Don't move too far or too fast. You'll be more likely to pull their hair. So I'm not doing a big movement. I'm just doing a little movement like that. And that can be firm pressure. Not as hard as you can, but a little bit of pressure feels good. And again, the person you're working on will let you know if it's too deep or if you're pulling on their hair. But for most people, this feels really good because a lot of the neck muscles attach to the base of the skull here. And then I'm going to come down to the neck muscles themselves. I'm going to do the same motion pulling back. So I'm not squeezing into the neck muscle, into the neck itself. I'm pulling back on the muscles around the neck, but I'm not squeezing all the way in against the spine. I'm just pulling back and I'm stopping about there. I'm not bringing my hand all the way together because I do not want to squeeze on their vertebrae. But again, you're not working on anyone with any injuries, anything wrong with their spine. This is only for people that have a healthy spine. If someone's dealing with injuries, then they need to go to a professional if they're going to have body work done. So I'm only feeling the muscle tissue here. You'll know on the neck, if you're on the neck, because it feels like a bone. So if you feel that, then just get off of it. Again, if you don't work too quickly, this should be fine. So you can do this a few times, starting up at the top where the neck muscles attach and making your way down towards the shoulders. So you could do that 3 or 4 times. So it's firm but not too deep. All right. And we're going to finish with working on the scalp. Can you take your hair down, Melanie? I had her put it up while I was working on her shoulders and back so it would be out of the way. So if somebody has long hair, it can be helpful to have it up while you're working on the back and shoulders. But it's great to be able to work right on the scalp. So I'm going to have her take that down. If the person has short hair or no hair, then you don't have to worry about it. So what I'm going to do is work my fingers down onto the scalp. If I start rubbing right on top, I'm more likely to pull their hair. So I'm working my fingers down through the hair, so I'm a little more on the scalp, and then I'm just doing a gentle, sort of a cat kneading motion. I'm not moving too far. Again, that would be more likely to pull the hair. Just doing little movements like that. It tends to feel really good, right? If you go have your hair cut and they shampoo your hair, it feels really good. This is the same thing pretty much without the soap and water. So it is a simple move that feels really good. Just again, make sure you're not pulling their hair. And you can go all over the scalp to do this. For most of us, this feels really good, but every person is different. So communication is key. I'm using my thumbs and my fingers. I'm doing the sides here a little bit on the temple, up to the top of the head, working the back of the head. You could also support their forehead again with one hand and just work on with the other hand on the back of their head. And again, I can get on some of those muscles that attach at the base of the skull. So this is a wonderful way to finish this routine. Tends to be a lot of tension up here. We also have a lot of meridians and energy points in the head. So even if we're not familiar with them, it still helps to free up some energy as well as feeling good physically. And I'm going to finish just like I started by gently just resting my hands, just giving a moment to integrate and to ground. How are you feeling, Melanie?
I feel so relaxed.
Wonderful. So, please enjoy. Remember to communicate. If anything's uncomfortable, then the person who's being worked on needs to speak up. If you're the one doing the work, remember to breathe. Remember not to lean forward or hunch your shoulders. So check in with your body and adjust as needed so that you're not putting undue stress on your body when you're working on somebody else. Thank you very much. Namaste.